They laughed at her for actuality, a atramentus woman and a mechanic. "I'll accord you $100,000 if you fix this." Until the agent roared. $100,000 if you can get this Lamborghini running, Marcus Wellington III declared, adjusting his Rolex watch as he watched the atramentus woman in bedraggled, all-embracing, continuing abutting to his burst bottom-ward supercar. "But aback you fail, and you will fail. I appetite you to acquire an avant-garde of anybody that women don't apperceive annihilation about engines." Kesha Johnson, 28, stood apoplectic at the base proposition. About her, at the celebrated Platinum Motors dealership in Beverly Hills, at Atomic 15 affluent men watched the amphitheater, as if it were a bizarre spectacle. Their amusement echoed off the marble walls as they placed bets amid themselves on how affiliated it would booty her to accord up. The bearings had escalated quickly. Kesha had absolved into the dealership aloof to aces up a allotment she had ordered for her baby Berghaus adjustment shop. But aback she affably adapted a misdiagnosis. The arch-artisan was authoritative on Marcus Lamborghini Huracan. The abasement began. "Look at this, everyone," Marcus had shouted for all to hear. "The little adult actuality thinks she knows added than our branch-certified expert." He paused dramatically. "I bet she doesn't alike apperceive the aberration amid a agent and a carburetor." What Marcus didn't apperceive was that Kesha had developed up demography afar engines at her grandfather's junkyard, had becoming in ceremoniousness amount in automated engineering, and had spent 3 years secretly alive as an abstruse advisor for one of the nation's bigger automakers. But her active appearance, atramentus skin, and changeable gender created an aggregate that fabricated affluent men absolutely belittle her abilities. "So, adolescent lady," Marcus continued, his articulation decrepit with condescension, "my Lumbo has been out of agency for 2 weeks for altered mechanics acquire accustomed up. It's a botheration with the cyberbanking ammunition bang arrangement that no one can amount out." He above his arms. "If you're as acceptable as you anticipate you are, prove it." Kesha looked at the car for a few seconds, a non-acquainted signs that the added mechanics had overlooked. Baby capacity in the position of the cables, the aberrant complete of the agent aback he approved to alpha it, the specific blush of the smoke advancing out of the exhaust. To her, it was like a count an accessible book. "What if I can?" she asked calmly, her articulation betraying neither affliction nor intimidation. "Impossible," Marcus laughed loudly. "But if by some phenomenon you can, I'll pay you a $100,000 appropriate now." "Cash!" He paused maliciously. "But aback you fail. Not alone will you acquire your incompetence. You'll acquire to apologize to anybody actuality for crumbling our time with this changeable artisan charlatan." The men about them began to babble amid themselves. $100,000 was austere money, alike in that amusing circle. Some took out their corpuscle phones to almanac what was abiding to be in ballsy humiliation. Kesha took an abysmal breath, canonizing her grandfather's words. "Daughter, engines don't see blush or gender. Engines aloof appetite to work, right?" For years, she had faced agnate situations. Men who doubted her adequacy afore alike seeing her work. "I accept," she said simply. The blackout that followed was burst alone by the complete of a camera actuality angry on. Marcus affiliated his Duke with a bloodthirsty smile. "It's a deal, but get accessible for abasement because it's activity to be public." As they befuddled hands, Kesha kept her announcement serene. What those advantaged men didn't apperceive was that every act of antipathy was about to become the agitator for an assignment none of them would any time forget. If this adventure of ageism and advantageous affliction has affected your heart, don't balloon to subscribe to the approach, because what happened to budding afflicted the way those men appearance adequacy and account forever. The aboriginal assurance that Marcus wasn't badinage came aback he alleged his friends. "Guys, you acquire to appear actuality and see this," he said on the phone, bedlam loudly. "A atramentus woman is aggravating to fix my Lumbo. Yes, you heard right. It's activity to be the ball of the afternoon." Kesha watched silently as the dealership angry into a bizarre arena. Within 15 minutes, at Atomic 20 affluent men had arrived, all analytical to attestant what Marcus appear as the abasement of the century. Some alike placed ancillary bets on how affiliated it would booty her to accord up. "Look, everyone," Marcus appeared dramatically. "I'd like to acquaint you to our supercar expert." He fabricated air quotes, eliciting amusement from those present. "She's activity to appearance us how a woman fixes what four certified men couldn't." What aching the best wasn't the amusement or the base comments. It was the look. That attending Kesha had accepted a back. She was 8 years old. A back her ancestor Aboriginal took her to her grandfather's junkyard. The aforementioned attending she got a back she approved to accompany the boys in demography afar engines. The aforementioned attending she got from academy advisors who questioned her attendance in avant-garde engineering classes. You apperceive what amuses me the most. Marcus affiliated now acutely assuming off for the audience. It's that she absolutely believes she can do it. Attending at her confidence. He paused dramatically. I bet she watched a few videos on YouTube, and now she thinks she's an able mechanic. The best aching anamnesis came aback in a flash. Kesha was 16 aback. She got an internship at an acclaimed adjustment shop. On her Aboriginal day, the administrator put her to assignment acclimation accoutrement and charwoman the floor. Women are acceptable at organizing, not fixing, he had said in avant-garde of all the added macho interns who were a non-accustomed abstruse jobs. Hey, lady. Marcus' articulation brought her aback to the present. Are you still there, or acquire you accustomed up? Because if you've afflicted your mind, you can leave now after awkward yourself. Kesha took a abysmal animation and absolved over to the Lamborghini. Her calmly affected the awning of the car with an airiness of accession who knows big-ticket machines. Immediately, she acquainted article that the added mechanics had missed, and about ephemeral beating that adumbrated a specific botheration in the cyberbanking administration system. Can I accessible the hood? She asked calmly. Sure, Professor, Marcus replied sarcastically. But I'll acquaint you now. You'll see the aforementioned affair the added foresaw. An Agent 2 circuitous 4. He chock-full abruptly aback he saw Kesha's announcement change. She had articular the botheration in beneath than 30 seconds. It wasn't a loofer amount of cyberbanking ammunition injection. Accession had installed an adverse achievement dent that was causing conflicts in the agent administration system. It was an aberration that alone amateur or backbiting mechanics would make. Who was the aftermost actuality to assignment on this car? She asked, her articulation actual professional. What does it matter? Marcus replied defensively. The botheration is that it doesn't work. You said you could fix it. Kesha noticed article interesting. Marcus' abrupt defensiveness. The way he looked abroad aback she mentioned who had formed on the car. There was an adventure there, and she was alpha to doubtable what it ability be. Of course, I'll fix it, she said simply. But I charge some specific accoutrement that you apparently don't acquire here. What tools? One of the dealership mechanics asked, acutely afflictive with her confidence. A European analytic scanner for post-2020 Lamborghini systems, an ECU reprogramming kit, and a few added abstruse things that she chock-full aback she saw the abashed expressions. Things that mechanics who specialize in supercars should know. The awkward blackout that followed was burst by Marcus. Special tools, huh? I bet that's aloof an alibi for not a live area to start. It's not an excuse, Kesha replied, extensive for her corpuscle phone. I'm calling my supplier. The accoutrement will be actuality in 2 hours. What she didn't say was that her supplier was absolutely an acquaintance at the car architect area she had formed secretly for 3 years. An acquaintance who would not alone accommodate her the tools, but who could additionally affirm her accurate able character if necessary. While she was on the phone, Marcus approached his friends. 2 hours of chargeless theater, he decrepit loud abundant for her to hear. Let's see how far she takes this charade. Kesha afraid up the buzz and faced Marcus directly. The accoutrement will be actuality in 2 hours. Can I get to assignment now, or would you rather abide with the comments? You can work, Marcus said with an atrocious smile. But aback you fail, and you will fail. I appetite you to acquire that you approve to abase men who acquire been alive adamantine on cars for years. Perfect, Kesha replied. Her articulation advancement a calm that puzzled some of the added alert observers. And aback I do. I achievement you acquire the aforementioned adventuresomeness to acquire your own mistakes. Anniversary new taunt alone fueled article central Kesha that those advantaged men couldn't see. A assurance artificial by years of struggles they would never face. What none of them accomplished was that anniversary awful animate version was autograph her own assignment in humility, and that the complete storm was yet to come. The 2 hours anesthetized in an altitude of growing tension. Marcus and his company had angry the wait into a clandestine party, acclamation big-ticket albino, and authoritative added atrocious bets on how Kesha would fail. Some alike filmed videos for amusing media advancing the agreeable they planned to column about the woman who approved to bluff affluent men. I bet the accoutrement won't alike arrive, laughed Jonathan Berkshire, beneficiary to an alternation of hotels. It was apparently aloof an alibi to buy time afore acceptance. She doesn't apperceive anything. Kesha remained built-in an armchair in the corner, acutely blank the comments. But in fact, she was watching Marcus' every reaction. Every time Accession mentioned antecedent mechanics or assignment done on the car, he became visibly uncomfortable. There was absolutely article he didn't appetite to be discovered. Aback the avant-garde automotive solutions barter pulled up, the allowance fell silent. This was no accustomed adjustment van, but a specialized agent loaded with accessories that amount added than best cars on the lot. Kesha Johnson asked the Alpine man, who stepped out of the barter, cutting a spotless mechanic's uniform. That's me, David, she replied, assent calmly. David Morrison was a chief architect in the Achievement Essay of Lamborghini North America. For 3 years, he had been cause complete administrator aback she formed secretly as an abstruse consultant. He knew her abilities bigger than anyone in that room. I brought aggregate you asked for, he said, Alpha to unload accessories that fabricated the dealership mechanics, attending at anniversary added with expressions of surprise. Able analytic scanner, a branch ECU reprogramming kit, specific accoutrement that alike accustomed dealerships didn't have. David, this is a bit of an abnormal situation, Kesha said quietly, anxiously pointing to the army of men watching their every move. I saw you on the Aegis cameras aback you arrived, he replied, appropriately discreet. I additionally noticed that the botheration is apparently not aloof technical. Would you like me to break and accommodate support? David's action was added cogent than Marcus could acquire imagined. Kesha wasn't aloof, accepting an abstruse assistant. She was accepting an official Lamborghini attestant for any discoveries she ability accomplish about crooked modifications to the vehicle. That would be great, she replied, alive that David's attendance would absolutely change the dynamics of the situation. Marcus approached nervously. Who is this guy? You can't accompany alfresco advice to an alone test. David Morrison, chief architect at Lamborghini North America. David Alien himself, extending an official accumulated card. I'm actuality alone to accommodate abstruse abutment with specialized equipment. Miss Johnson will do all the analytic work. The agenda anesthetized from Duke to Duke amid the onlookers. The bizarre atmosphere had afflicted to article abundant added serious. Suddenly, this was no best atrocious entertainment, but a complete able bearings with an official adumbrative of the car architect present. Official Lamborghini, stammered one of Marcus's friends. She knows bodies at Lamborghini. Kesha affiliated the aboriginal allotment of accessories to the car, and anon the awning displayed advice that fabricated David frown. Kesha, are you seeing this? He muttered, pointing to specific codes that appeared in the analytic report. I see it, she replied, her articulation advancement its able tone, but her eyes sparkling with article that looked like satisfaction. The ECU was reprogrammed with crooked software about 3 months ago. A third affair achievement dent was installed after able calibration. That's serious, David said. Loud abundant for anybody to hear. Crooked modifications can absolutely abandon the vehicle's assurance and actualize austere assurance issues. Marcus angry visibly pale. Wait a minute, that has annihilation to do with the test. She aloof needs to get the car running. Actually, it has aggregate to do with it, Kesha replied, continuing the diagnosis. Because whoever installed those modifications did such a poor job that they created conflicts in the arrangement that anticipate the agent from active properly. Over the abutting hour, Kesha formed methodically, removing anniversary crooked modification. Her calmly confused with the attention of Accession, who had done this affectionate of assignment hundreds of times. David watched her with growing admiration, canonizing why she had been one of the company's best admired consultants. Interesting, she commented, analytical the removed chip. This one is counterfeit. It looks like an exceptional achievement chip, but it's absolutely a bargain replica that could assuredly accident the agent if acclimated for actual long. Counterfeit? David leaned in to appraise it. This is serious. Affected chips are alarming and illegal. Whoever installed this put the buyer in complete danger. Marcus was now visibly sweating. Look, maybe we should stop here. The important affair is that the car works, not investigating. Mr. Wellington, Kesha interrupted, her articulation calm, but firm. You mentioned that 4 altered mechanics approved to fix this car. May I ask area the aftermost modifications were made? I don't bethink exactly, Marcus stammered. David arrested article on his book, and frowned alike more. Mr. Wellington, our annal appearance that this agent has never undergone any accustomed modifications. Any achievement assignment should acquire been appear to our headquarters. Records? One of Marcus' company asked. You acquire annal of everything? Of course, David replied. Every Lamborghini has a complete history of maintenance, modifications, and diagnostics. Abnormally aback, it involves changes to the cyber banking system. Kesha affiliated working, but now with a bifold purpose. She wasn't aloof acclamation the car. She was accession evidence. Every affected part, every ailing done modification, every assurance of amateurish assignment was actuality accurate by official Lamborghini equipment. David, she said, abutting the aftermost cable. Would you amuse Almanac an official abstruse address on what we begin here? Of course, he replied immediately, compassionate the accent of the request. Full address on crooked modifications, affected parts, and abeyant accident to the vehicle. The blackout in the branch was deafening. The men who had been arise atrocious jokes aloof an hour beforehand now watched as austere abstruse essay was conducted by professionals who acutely knew far added about affluence cars than any of them. Marcus approved one aftermost card. Look, this is all actual interesting, but the accord was simple. Either you accomplish the car assignment or you acquire you can't. Kesha chock full alive and looked anon at him. Mr. Wellington, the car will assignment perfectly. But now we acquire added austere bearings here. She paused badly because accession acutely approved to bluff you out of your money by affairs you affected and alarming modifications. And I acquire activity you apperceive absolutely who that was. The attending on Marcus' face appear that she had hit the attach on the head. There was abundant added to this adventure than an atrocious bet. And Kesha was bent to bear the accomplished truth. David accomplished ambience up the aftermost allotment of accessories and looked over at Kesha. Everything's accessible for the final test. Perfect, she replied, her calmly accession themselves on the agitation key. Let's see if 3 years of developing cyber banking systems for Lamborghini has accomplished me anything. As anybody captivated their breath, Kesha accomplished she was about to prove abundant added than her abstruse competence. She was about to betrayal or arrangement of artifice that acceptable affiliated far above that Lamborghini. And Marcus Wellington III was alpha to apprehend. He had bet on the amiss person. The moment of accuracy accustomed to back Kesha angry the key in the Lamborghini. The agent did an aloof start. It roared with the ability and attention that fabricated the walls of the dealership shake. It was the complete of an Italian apparatus active absolutely as its engineers had advised it to run with no interference, no bargain modifications, no lies. The blackout that followed lasted alone 3 abnormal afore the access of reactions. The men who had spent hours biting Kesha now looked at anniversary, added with expressions of complete shock. Marcus Wellington III accurately looked like he had apparent a ghost. Impossible, he muttered, abutting the car as if it were a mirage. How? How did you do that? Simple, Kesha replied. Axis off the agent and dispatch out of the agent with the calmness of accession who had aloof completed a accepted task. I removed all crooked modifications, replaced the affected genitalia with aboriginal components, and reprogrammed the cyberbanking arrangement to branch specifications. David Morrison approached with his tablet, assuming the abstract's calm during the process. Mr. Wellington, I charge to acutely acquaint you of what we begin during the diagnostic. His articulation had afflicted to an academic austere tone. This agent had undergone acutely alarming modifications that not alone voided its assurance, but put your assurance at complete risk. What affectionate of risk? Asked Jonathan Berkshire, the Aubaird's heir acutely nervous. The affected achievement dent was causing the agent to overheat, Kesha explained, pointing to the abstracts on her tablet. A few added weeks of use, and you would acquire witness to adverse agent failure, possibly with fire. Marcus angry, visibly pale. Fire? Are you aggravating to alarm me? I'm not aggravating anything, David replied dryly. I'm advertence abstruse facts. Miss Johnson adored your activity by anecdotic and acclamation these modifications. He paused significantly. Incidentally, Miss Johnson isn't aloof any mechanic. She is Kesha Johnson, above chief advisor to our Achievement Engineering Division. A babble of abruptness bouncing through the crowd. Above consultant? Accession asked. For 3 years, Miss Johnson was amenable for developing and testing cyber banking systems in our best avant-garde models, David continued, acutely appreciative to accomplish the official introduction. She has certifications that best mechanics alone dream of achieving. Marcus approved to achieve some ascendancy of the situation. Okay, she anchored the car. Congratulations. Where's my money? Hold on a second, Kesha said, captivation an envelope David had anxiously handed her. Afore we allocution about payment, we charge to altercate some absorbing allegation about who installed these alarming modifications in your car. The attending on Marcus' face afflicted instantly. What findings? David opened his laptop and affiliated a carriageable projector he had brought with him. During our analysis, we begin article fascinating. The awning showed an alternation of numbers and codes. The affected dent installed in your agent has a traceable consecutive number. So what? Marcus asked, but his articulate uncertain. This specific dent was awash by a aggregation alleged achievement additional modifications. Kesha affiliated anxiously watching Marcus' reaction. A aggregation that interestingly lists you as the majority shareholder. The blackout in the branch was absolute. All eyes angry to Marcus, who is now visibly sweating. This is ridiculous, he approved to protest. I never, Mr. Wellington, David interrupted, assuming official abstracts on the screen. We acquire the accumulated annal here. Achievement additional modifications. Tax ID Cardinal 87.742.921/00001-63. Majority actor Marcus Wellington 3. 60% of the shares. The adumbration was like a bomb. Marcus had installed affected genitalia in his own car and again abhorrent amateur mechanics, creating an anecdotal that justified his prejudices while profiting from affairs alarming articles to added affluence car owners. Wait. Jonathan Berkshire approached acutely disturbed. Marcus, you installed affected genitalia in your own car? Why? Kesha took accession certificate from the envelope. Because he bare affirmation that acceptable mechanics were incompetent. He created a botheration he knew wouldn't be calmly solved, so he could use it as absolution for affairs his own solutions. And that's not all, David added, assuming added data. Our annal appearance that at Atomic 15 added Lamborghini owners acquire purchased modifications from this aggregation in the aftermost 6 months, all with the aforementioned alarming problems. One of Marcus' friends, a man called Richard Foster, was livid. Marcus, you awash me a achievement kit aftermost month. My Aventador has been accepting problems for weeks, and I bought one for my Ferrari. Accession man shouted. You assured me it was branch original. The bearings had absolutely changed. Marcus wasn't aloof, a biased, affluent man, authoritative, atrocious bets. He was a fraudster who was putting lives at accident while overextension racist and sexist advertising to awning up his crimes. Mr. Wellington, David said formally, as an official adumbrative of Lamborghini, I charge acquaint you that we acquire launched a academic essay into crooked modifications awash by your company. In addition, our attorneys will be contacting you apropos brand violations and crooked use of our logos on affected products. Kesha approached Marcus, who is now visibly panicking. About our aboriginal bet, she said calmly. You promised me $100,000 if I anchored your car. The car is active perfectly. But Marcus stammered. But you additionally said that if I failed, you'd acquire that women don't accept engines. Kesha continued. Well, your car is running. So now it's your about face to acquire a few things. David angry on an able camera he had brought with him. For acknowledged purposes, we'll charge to almanac your official acknowledgement about the counterfeit modifications. Marcus looked about the room, seeing alone faces abounding with acrimony and disgust. His own acquaintance stared at him as if he were an alarming stranger. In an amount of hours, he had gone from an admired affluent man to about apparent fraud. Kesha, he tried, his articulation now pleading. Can we allocution privately? Maybe we can assignment article out. There is no deal, she replied firmly. Not alone did you try to abase me for actuality a woman and black. You put lives at accident by affairs abnormal articles and acclimated ageism to awning up your crimes. Jonathan Berkshire stepped abroad from Marcus visibly disgusted. Man, you're disgusting. You approved to use racism and sexism to awning up the actuality that you're a criminal. David bankrupted his laptop and addressed anybody present. Gentlemen, as an official adumbrative of Lamborghini, I assert a claim that anyone who has purchased modifications for Mr. Wellington's aggregation, a non-acquaintance, and a custom dealership for an assurance review. While Marcus approved to action the complete abolition of his acceptability and possibly his freedom, Kesha calmly put abroad her tools. She showed neither acrimony nor vindictiveness, Aloof, the quiet achievement of accession who had served amends with abstruse adequacy and moral integrity. David, she said, can you accelerate an archetype of the abstruse address to the police? I anticipate they'll appetite to investigate how abounding bodies were put at accident by these modifications. What had started as an atrocious bet based on ageism had angry into the complete acknowledgement of a bent scheme. And Marcus Wellington III was advertent that action adjoin the amiss actuality can amount a lot added than $100,000. It can amount everything. 6 months later, Kesha was signing the arrangement that fabricated her abstruse administrator of the bigger affluence car dealership arrangement on the West Coast. Her bacon had added 400%, and she now oversaw an aggregation of 80 able mechanics. Miss Johnson, said the CEO during the ceremony, your acknowledgement of the achievement additional artifice arrangement adored our industry from an abundant bigger scandal. 17 dealerships acquire already implemented your Aegis protocols. The adventure had gone viral on amusing media. The video of Marcus' affected acknowledgement accomplished 2-actor angle in 48 hours. Axes Kesha into a civic attribute of abstruse adequacy and able integrity. Marcus Wellington III, on the added hand, faced an actual altered fate. His aggregation was shut bottomward by the FBI. He absent 80 actor in lawsuits, and his above affluent company alone him like the bubonic plague. The aftermost accessible almanac showed him alive as a salesman at an acclimated car dealership earning minimum wage. Ironic, isn't it? David Morrison remarked during Kesha's advance party. The man who said women don't accept engines now works for an arrangement whose Aegis agreement was created by an atramentus woman he approved to humiliate. Kesha smiled, watching her assorted aggregation celebrate. 40% were women, 30% were black, all assassin alone for their abstruse skills, not their looks or ancestors' connections. You apperceive what my best animus was, she said to David. It wasn't antibacterial, Marcus. It was proving that irate has no blush or gender, and that ageism is artlessly a decay of talent. The complete achievement wasn't in the $100,000 Marcus paid, but in the complete transformation of an absolute industry. Kesha had accurate that the best acknowledgement to ageism isn't anger. Its adequacy so absolute that it armament the apple to admit your excellence. Marcus approved to abort her application racism and sexism. But he alone destroyed himself. Kesha abstruse that accurate animus is not accepting aback at those who aching you. It's accomplishing success that your enemies could never imagine. If this adventure of transformation and amends affected you, subscribe to the approach for added belief that prove that adequacy consistently beats ageism and that sometimes afterlife needs a little abstruse advice from